Here's my top 20 PSP games, right? Kind of like an update style video as I did. I did do like a PSP ranking before, right? In recent years. These ranking style videos they're very fun to do as you kind of look back at your collection and kind of rank games, right? And it's all based on my opinion, right? But I'll leave down below, like in the comment section, your top 20 or top 10, top 15, top 30 PSP games or PS2 games, PS3 games, etc. 20 is gonna be G.I. Joe or Rise of the Cobra. Now, G.I. Joe or Rise of the Cobra basically plays like a co-op style action game, shooter style game. Basically, it plays very similar to Killzone or Liberation. Now, Rise of the Cobra, it is one of the better kind of video games based on the movie style games that I played, and it is a very fun style of game, right? So it's you're literally shooting down enemies, shooting down kind of barriers, or kind of hacking into areas, boss fights, shooting on helicopters, tanks, and I get to play as different kind of Joe agents, right? The GI Joe agents. It's not. This is not a PS2 version. I think the PS2 or PS3 version where you could choose. I could play as either Cobra or GI Joe, right? But Rise of the Cobra, like on the PSP, you'll have a blast playing through this game. And there's also like this cool kind of star-based system, right? So the more points you gain in a certain mission, right? Playing as certain characters are the more points that you're gonna build towards unlocking characters. My number 19 is gonna be Daxter, the solo Daxter game for PSP. I'm not sure. I think it's only for the PSP. So this was literally only for the PSP. I think it was for the PS2 as well. But anyways, Daxter is basically, plays just like a Jak and Daxter, but you're just Daxter. So it has some puzzles, it has platforming, it has this cool kind of poison vacuum ability, a weapon, right? And in terms of like, some of the graphics, it plays more like, like a console PS2 game, right? So yeah, you get to experience a Daxter solo game like on PSP. It is one of the more common PSP games, but I recommend this game. Number 18 is gonna be Gangs of London. Now, Gangs of London game, this is basically like a GTA style game. Like the older GTA games, but it takes place in London, England. So this is like like a crime drama style game. And Gangs of London. So there's like different factions in the world, right? So there's the Chinese gang, there's a Middle Eastern gang, there's like a British, Irish gang, there's a Jamaican, a Caribbean gang, and etc. Right, so on. Now you get to choose a faction, a certain gang, and then basically you gotta literally occupy, you gotta literally occupy the gang, criminal underworld, right? So there's many cool missions in the game, right? Sabotage, attack, escape, protect, infiltrate. You can even, this cool kind of side missions where you can play as a cop and do like this cool a riot or control style gameplay. But overall, for a PSP game, it's basically like a GTA game on PSP. Now number 17 is gonna be Juiced 2. The Juiced 2 game, this is basically a mixture between Midnight Club, Need for Speed, Burnout, right? But Juiced 2 is a game. This game really blew me away, and it's probably the best looking It's probably the best looking racing game on PSP in terms of graphics, visuals, presentation. Juice 2 has customization, is like different kind of vehicles, and it's kind of it's very reminiscent of that kind of mid 2000s Need for Speed era, right? But Juice 2 like it's its own thing, right? Made by THQ. But if you're looking for a racing game, this one, definitely I look for this one. Number 16 is gonna be Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition. Now, Dub Edition, I have Midnight Club 3 as well for the PS2, and there's Dub Edition Remix, right? I don't remember the exact difference, but Midnight Club 3, tons of events, a long game, tons of challenges, tournaments, time trials, relay races, competitive races, and as well Midnight Club 3. Kind of this one introduced the customization to the Midnight Club franchise, right? So you customize the bumper, the kind of the side bumper, create a lot of cool color schemes like on the car, right? The exhaust system upgrading, right? But a Midnight Club 3 is a game, like a racing game that has a lot in it, right? There's a lot in this racing game, and if you're a fan of Midnight Club 1, 2, 3 on the 3 on the PS2, this one you should look for.
Number 15 is going to be Ben 10 Protector of Earth. So basically like an adventure style platformer game, right? Where you take on multiple different alien forms, just like the original cartoon show. But Protector of Earth also implements cool epic boss sequences, platform sequences, right? And with the different alien forms that you take on, right? So, for example, one will have fire, another will have ice, another is more like for power and muscle, another one is a literal a cannonball, right? So, each alien form each has their unique kind of ability to it, right? And for a PSP game, very fun. Number 14 is going to be Pursuit Force Extreme Justice. Now, a game that literally kind of combines many different genres into one. Racing, third-person shooting, boat chases, time trials, arcade, etc. Now, a Pursuit Force Extreme Justice, it is a very long game in the PSP. That's really why, it's on this list. But, and just how this one played more like an actual console style game. So you basically like a police and you're trying to, take down various bad guys, right, in police chases or, time trials or sometimes shootouts. There's even boat chases. There's one where you're going to shoot down like a helicopter, right? So that very fun Just Cause style of a gameplay, right, is very epic, right, especially for a PSP game. My number 13 is going to be SOCOM Fireteam Bravo 1. Now, Fireteam Bravo 1, really why it's on this list, because I was a huge fan of SOCOM 1, 2, and 3, and Fireteam Bravo really brings that experience to the PSP. Now, with that tactical, strategic, third-person military shooter. Now, Fireteam Bravo is literally only Bravo. So you're only controlling Bravo, so that's just literally two soldiers that you're controlling. But it still has the tactical kind of strategic commands that those previous games had, right? And the mission structure is very, very, very similar, right? The level design is very similar. And it's one of the cheaper PSP games, so, and it is one of the most common PSP games, so you can find this game for $5-10 super cheap now and pick it up. Number 12 is gonna be Ratchet and Clank Size Matters. Now, this introducing Ratchet and Clank to the PSP, and I think this is the you had this one and you had a Clank Secret Agent for PSP, but Clank Secret Agent was a bit of a weird game. But Ratchet and Clank Size Matters plays more like the original three Ratchet and Clank games. Size Matters had some of my favorite arcade or side challenges in a Ratchet and Clank game, right? It is also unfortunately one of the shorter Ratchet and Clank games in terms of overall length. But I enjoy the weapons, right? And there's lots of replayability, right? It's fun kind of replaying the first three levels over and over and over again, and trying to unlock everything like from scratch again is always very fun. And Clank had the giant mech mode, which kind of implements like into a spaceship type arcade gameplay, which was extremely epic. Number 11 is going to be God of War Chains of Olympus. Now, this one is a very popular PSP game. Now, Chains of Olympus, unfortunately, has gone up in price. It's one of those, slightly, more expensive of PSP games. But Chains of Olympus, I remember playing, and this was my introduction to the God of War game. Sorry, to the God of War franchise. Back when GameStop was selling PSP games brand new, I remember, when I was probably like 11 years old, I said, okay, this game looks epic. Chains of Olympus, so it kind of takes place chronologically before God of War 1. So it looks at, this one looks at, I think it's Atlas, and it looks at the wife of Hades kind of taking over, the world. And you as Kratos, you have to save Helios, right? You have to save, Helios from the sun being consumed. Basically, the older style of God of War gameplay is in this very epic, very replayable, and, a very impressive game on the PSP.
Number 10 is going to be Flat Out Head On. So Flat Out Head On is basically like an off-road style racing game. And I think this was solely only like for the PSP. It might have been on PC. But Flat Out Head On, right, there's like cool demolition derby style races, and visually, like for a racing game, it shows the damage done at your car, right? Whether it be at the bumper, the side bumper, etc. Flat Out Head On also has a very cool ejector seat type, kind of arcade mode. It's kind of implemented with many different sports: basketball, soccer, football, and as well stuff like poker, shot putting, the Rings of Fire. It is very fun, and also as well with a flat out head on, it's very cool. Like playing at the regular races, I believe it's called a flat out mode, and you basically as you kind of grow from the dirt, drunk off road style of vehicles all the way to the exotic style of vehicles, right? Exotic super class of vehicles. Number 9 is gonna be Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. This is my first Metal Gear Solid game I ever played. I didn't know anything about the franchise, and with the Metal Gear Solid franchise, the stories, sorry, the storyline is very, I can be very confusing. Metal Gear Solid 3 being the first one chronologically, like in the story, and this one coming after, kind of taking place 10 years after that. Now, Peace Walker introduced a mother base, right? No, a mother base where you can develop various weapons in the game, and also as well like with Peace Walker implemented the cool mech bosses, right? So you have the Pupa, the Cocoon, Peace Walker being the main boss of the game, right? And like with some of the mechanics and stealth, it has all those stuff, right? From a typical Metal Gear Solid game, the stealth, a third-person shooter, like, but for a PSP game, and it is a very kind of ahead of its time, and also as well, it's also a remaster for the PS3. So if you're on the PS3, you can also experience this game, right, as well. So you can experience this game on consoles and have fun with it. Number 8 is gonna be Dead to Rights Reckoning. Really, because this game is very a highly replayable game, and even though this game is a kind of short, right? This game is basically like a Max Payne on PSP, so you can literally it plays like a Max Payne game on PSP. So bullet time, bullet dodge, right? And you get like this kind of cool husky dog to attack enemies for you, right? You get to build up the meter. Crazy shootout sequences, right? And I didn't know this game was a thing until last year. So I didn't know anything about Dead to Rights until last year, right? And but being able to play as this kind of cool Punisher type character in a PSP game, and you can kind of unlock kind of different suits for multiplayer. Sorry, uniforms and costumes for multiplayer, etc. Now this is gonna be like a dual side ranking, right? So 7 and 6, right? They're basically a very similar, like almost the same type of game. But Siphon Filter Dark Mirror, Siphon Filter Alogen Shadow, I enjoy these games a lot. For especially like a spy kind of third person shooter game, and like with the various kind of visual modes, right? The EDOSU goggles, which give you night vision, infrared, and ultraviolet kind of thermal vision. So which kind of maps out certain objectives, enemies, important areas, etc. But like the mechanics are very impressive. It's so responsive. The controls feels very responsive, and switching, it is a very kind of simple game to learn, right? If you never played a Siphon Filter game before, these games are very are good to start with. It's also on the PS2, so if you're on the PS2, if you still have it, you can also pick up. I know you can pick up Dark Mirror like in the PS2 and play it, right? So if you don't have a PSP, you can play it on the PS2 as well. But like for a PSP experience, it's highly replayable, and some of the shootouts are very realistic. Sound design is very great as well. Number 5 is gonna be Burnout Legends, right? This is my favorite racing game in the PSP. Burnout Legends, and you'll realize like with this ranking, I have a lot of racing games, but Legends, which is basically kind of Burnout 3 Takedown, but like on the PSP, and with crazy fast pace, wreck like driving, right? Burnout Legends is incredibly addicting, super replayable, lots to do like in this game, lots of events, many different cars in the game, right? Great visuals, very good like in terms of visuals. And Burnout Legends is highly recommended game like on the PSP. I'm in the final four, so kind of number 4 is gonna be Coded Arms Contagion. The Coded Arms Contagion, which is a game I picked up a month ago. It was a game I've been looking for a long time, and Coded Arms Contagion is basically like a retro style shooter game, arcade style shooter, very arcadey like and very fun. But it's such a long game, and it's for a PSP game. If you pick this game up, right, it's a rare game, so it's one of the more rare titles. But if you pick it up, you'll have a blast. There's so much fun to be had in this game, and it is definitely more, difficult than it is more challenging than the first game. You get kind of different kind of weapons in the game, right? From arcade shotguns, assault rifles, laser guns, vaporizing, kind of these vaporizing rocket launchers, grenade launchers, grenades, etc. And this one implemented like this weird hacking game, right? Where you have to match on the numbers, kind of like a lottery style game where but you have to be very, very, very quick at the match, numbers. The enemies are very, the enemies are very cool, and with some of the enemy variety like in the game and boss variety, they really I did a great job like with this game. Number three is gonna be Retribution, Resistance, Retribution. One of my earliest PSP experiences, and every time I replay this game, it's just amazing how ahead of its time it was. Coming out, I think 2008. I remember I bought this like when GameStop still was still selling PSP games, so it's been probably 17 years. Now, a Retribution, a third-person shooter. This is different than the other Resistance games. Those ones being first-person shooter, this one being third-person shooter, and basically reintroduce all the previous weapons from Resistance 1 and 2 into this game. And in some of they introduce newer enemies into this game. It has some of the level design is very tight and difficult, but the controls are very responsive. And if you enjoyed those early games, and if you wanted a kind of alternate look at the franchise on the PSP, you could pick up this game. Number two is gonna be Ghost Rider. So the Ghost Rider PSP game, I put it on this list mainly because it reminds me, very much of those early God of War games. The hack and slash, a light attack, heavy attack, train style combo, right? A grab attacks. Now, Ghost Rider, is also like for me like a long PSP game. So there's lots to do in this game. There's kind of the main story mode, right? It's split up into 5 chapters, and each chapter having I think like 8 different levels, right? And as well, those levels are split up into like the hack and slash action gameplay, or a racing style gameplay time trial, right? So where you basically are you basically racing on the well, not racing, like you're driving on the Ghost Rider a motorcycle, right? And as you're literally running down demons. There's also bosses. The bosses too, like, are pretty cool. Some of the cool epic boss sequences. But really, it's really one of the better movie-based games that I played. Or sorry, video games are based on a movie that I played. My favorite PSP game, number one, is gonna be Coded Arms. Now, same reason why I love Contagion is the same reason why I love Coded Arms. But Coded Arms even more. Really, why I enjoyed it more is more. I think this one had better a level design, better features, better weapons. And it was more replayable. This one is obviously this one is less linear than the previous than a Contagion. But this one had also better bosses, and it had more mazes and more kind of variety, like levels in it, and a better overall weapons. But like for a PSP game, if you enjoy like retro, very retro old school shooters, this one will really, really, really impress you, right? And also those sci-fi, it's a very sci-fi heavy arcade game. So yeah, top 20 PSP games. Like and subscribe. Thank you.